Hello everyone, today we're going through some new VR games and VR news for the month of May, starting with Remanant Protocol, a meta-funded VR space sim coming later this year to obviously MetaQuest, but it's also coming to Steam. I've personally never heard of the developer, but I do love a space sim. In Remanant Protocol, you'll be part of a rebel alliance called the Eponymous Remanant, and you have to take down the oppressive empire, and only you can stop them. You'll be in the cockpit engaged in dogfights between the missions of the campaign that have some strategy elements. You'll be doing research, planning manufacturing, gathering intelligence, recruiting pilots, forging alliances to then set off as a group to take on the next mission. The developers have said this will be a living, breathing universe filled with shifting alliances and procedurally generated missions combined with a dynamic storyline. So far, this does sound pretty good. PSVR is finally releasing its VR update on May the 30th for PCVR. Now I checked it out for a video in beta and it was everything I hoped for in how a liminal space experience would feel in VR. There was a few eerie surprises here and there, but the performance was a bit rough. But I'm hoping on May the 30th it's running nice and smooth and everyone can check this unique experience out. The brilliant Hellsweeper got a cool new update, adding a new weapon called the Chukam, which is the game's first ranged weapon and it looks pretty cool. There's also some other updates and new weapons, so if you've already checked out this update, please let me and others know down in the comments. Puzzling Places, which is considered a pretty popular game on PSVR 2 and Quest, is now coming to PCVR at some point later this year. Now I personally never played it, but I know it features photorealistic graphics, and after seeing the trailer, I might actually give it a shot. VR rhythm game lovers will be happy to learn that Smash Drums is now also coming to PSVR 2 with new real-time lighting, a 120Hz mode on base PS5, which is pretty cool, and it also adds support for adaptive triggers and it will use eye tracking. Now onto the new VR games, and I'm going to start this list by talking about the most hyped game of the month for me, and that's the Midnight Walk, which launches on May the 8th on PCVR and PSVR 2 with optional flat screen support, but we obviously don't care about that. And you'll see throughout this video, May the 8th is a very busy day for VR. The Midnight Walk looks visually unique to everything else I've ever played because everything in the game is first sculptured in clay and then 3D scanned, leaving a highly detailed image and then is captured using stop motion. The story sees you on a journey as Pot Boy, aka the Burnt One, and you must journey along a twisted trail of the Midnight Walk. You must work with your companion to outsmart fire-eating monsters, using his flame to distract the enemy while you hide and evade the many threats of the dark. You will encounter new friends and experience awe-inspiring sights. I'm really glad we haven't got long to wait for this one, and I'll be dropping a review as soon as possible. Walltown Wonders comes to PSVR 2 and PCVR on May the 8th, and I already have access to this, so I'll be dropping a review very soon. Walltown Wonders is a real favourite of mine, especially in mixed reality, but this time it's now set in a fully virtual world. It will feature 100 unique building models, 40 characters, a new dating feature, and 3 virtual environments, which can be switched from day to night time. I've no doubt this will look absolutely stunning on PCVR and PSVR 2. Surviving Mars comes to PCVR and Quest on May the 8th. This comes from the developer of Genotype, which initially I didn't actually enjoy after my lackluster first impressions, but he made the game really good and is now something I definitely recommend. Surviving Mars is a reimagined version of a flat screen game which is normally played from a top-down perspective. You'll be creating a civilization and controlling a society. You'll be mining and more, all in first person. You need to build bases and explore using a Martian space rover to get around. And there will also be a PSVR 2 version coming in the future. Slender Man The Arrival is coming May the 13th to Steam and PSVR 2 after being delayed from its original release of September 2024. Now, I've never played a Slender Man game, but it looks and sounds like the perfect fit for VR and for horror fans.
Take care.
Tunnels VR is an interesting new horror game coming to Quest on May the 15th, and the reason I'm pretty excited to check this out is VR is fantastically good at causing claustrophobia. In Tunnels you'll be exploring abandoned mine shafts and tunnels to find a way out, featuring some cool looking climbing sections, zip lines, and there's monsters. Tunnels will also have a single player mode and a multiplayer mode, and I've already spoke to Beardo Benjo and we're going to be making a co-op vid later this month. Pirates VR Jolly Roger is a pretty cool survival adventure game which I featured back in January on PCVR, and it's coming to PSVR 2 on May the 15th. The developers have mentioned they will be using PSVR 2's adaptive triggers and headset rumble, but unfortunately there's no mention of what sort of refresh rate they're going to be using or eye tracking. So I do expect it will be 120Hz reprojected, but I still hope for the best because it's a pretty cool game. And I should be getting early access either later today or tomorrow, and I should be able to drop some first impressions for you very soon. Zombie Army VR is coming to all platforms on May the 22nd and might actually turn out to be decent after my pretty negative first impressions back in August last year. The new developers who took over from XR Games have shared they are working to make the best use of PSVR 2's features, with a 90Hz refresh rate, eye tracking in combination with dynamic foveated rendering, adaptive triggers and headset rumble. And knowing all this puts this game back on my hype list, because if they're making this sort of effort for PSVR 2, then they'll surely be making the same sort of effort for the Quest and PCVR versions, so I'm actually looking forward to reviewing it later this month.
That sound! Mein Gott! Suiciders!
Consider that bone picked! Splendid! Got it.
Courage, Dead Hunter. We need to see what lies inside, no matter what horror lurks beyond those doors.
Hard Bullet is finally releasing on May 27th on MetaQuest 3. Now if you haven't seen or heard of Hard Bullet before, back when I used to play it, it was an extremely violent and brilliant sandbox game. But it's now also evolved to include some new game modes, but it's still mostly about taking on waves of enemies with some awesome ragdoll physics, and it does feature some incredible and pretty impossible weapons too. I predict this one will be very popular with the Blade and Sorcery and Boneworks crowd. On May the 22nd, Out of Sight, which is described as a first and second person atmospheric horror game, is coming to PCVR, with Quest and PSVR 2 coming later in the year. The game isn't released yet, so the VR version will launch alongside the flat version, but from the trailers it does look pretty cool. You play a young blind girl called Sophie, who can only see through her teddy bear's eyes. She has been captured and you must escape a creepy mansion full of puzzles. And to wrap up the video, EA's F1 series is getting VR support once again for F1 2025 on May the 30th. And I can only hope they've learned to optimise the VR version, because previously every other version has been pretty unoptimised, and for many PCVR enthusiasts, getting this to run smoothly is quite a pain unless you have a fantastic rig. But when it does run really smoothly for the times that I've played it, it's a fantastic VR racing experience, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking this one out. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.